The day Armin Vale lost sight of his triplets was the day his life cracked open in a hospital corridor flooded with white light and echoing footsteps, a place where fear ran faster than reason and love chased after it without stopping to breathe. One moment he was a tired single father juggling juice boxes and appointment slips under the noon sun pouring through tall glass windows, and the next moment three identical small shoes scattered in different directions, laughter bouncing off sterile walls while his heart slammed against his ribs like it was trying to escape first. Before the story pulls you any deeper, pause for a second. If you believe kindness deserves second chances, if you believe small moments can change entire lives, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel Shadowverse. Stories like this only survive because people like you keep them alive. Armin had not planned to bring the triplets to the hospital that day. Daytime errands were supposed to be quick, controlled, survivable. But babysitters cancelled, work emails stacked up, and life did what it always did to Armin since the night his wife died during childbirth. It demanded strength when he had already spent all of it. The triplets, Rowan, Silas, and June, were 4 years old and powered by a joy that seemed allergic to stillness. They ran because the world was wide and bright and full of places they had not yet been told not to go. Armin ran because fear sharpened every sense when you had already lost someone once. He followed the echo of their shoes and burst into the first open room he saw, breath burning, apologies forming in his mind. Instead of children, he found silence. Sunlight streamed through a half-drawn curtain, cutting the room into golden shadow. Machines hummed softly like tired insects. On the bed lay a woman whose presence felt heavier than the air itself, thin and pale, her hands folded as if already practicing stillness. Her name, printed on a chart clipped near the bed, was Leora Kensley. Armin froze, shame and confusion tangling together, because he had run into the wrong room, and into someone else's ending. The triplets were found moments later by a nurse, but the image of that room stayed lodged in Armin's chest. He had seen death before, had sat beside it long nights ago, yet something about Leora felt unfinished, like a sentence cut short in daylight. As he left the hospital with his children finally secured and calm restored, he carried the weight of that brief intrusion with him, an uninvited memory that refused to fade. Days passed in sunlight and routine. Morning breakfasts with spilled cereal. Daytime walks to the park. Laundry folding under open windows. Armin worked freelance from home, living in pockets of time between naps and preschool pickups. But the memory followed him, especially in the afternoons when the house grew quiet and his thoughts grew loud. He found himself back at the hospital the next week under the excuse of returning a toy the triplets had dropped, a small plastic dinosaur that felt like a thin justification for something much deeper. Leora was still there. Still alive, still fighting in the way only people with very little time learn how to fight. She was battling a rare heart condition, one that had wrapped itself around her future and squeezed. Doctors spoke in careful daylight voices, full of maybes and probabilities. Visitors were rare. Her parents lived far away and her friends had slowly thinned, worn down by the long stretch of uncertainty. Armin did not plan to stay. He just did. Sitting quietly, reading while sunlight crept across the floor, learning the shape of her presence without speaking too much into it. Over weeks, the hospital became a place Armin no longer feared. He came during the day, always during the day, after dropping the triplets at preschool. He brought fruit, sometimes flowers, sometimes nothing but company. Leora listened more than she spoke. Her eyes held stories she did not rush to tell. Armin found himself telling her about the chaos of raising 3 children alone, about the ache of trying to be enough for people who needed him in multiples. He did not ask for sympathy. He simply told the truth, and in that quiet honesty, something gentle began to grow. The challenge was not falling into connection. The challenge was believing it was allowed. Armin had built walls from responsibility and grief, practical walls reinforced by fear. Leora lived in a body that betrayed her daily, yet she laughed at the sunlight like it was a gift meant only for her. Watching her taught Armin that time was not something to save, but something to spend bravely. Then came the call one afternoon when the sun was high and the triplets were painting at the kitchen table. A match had been found. A transplant was possible. The word possible landed like a miracle you were afraid to touch. Surgery followed. Long hours under fluorescent lights. Armin waited with a patience he did not know he possessed, his phone heavy in his hands, his thoughts circling every version of loss he had already survived. When the doctors finally emerged, their faces carried cautious hope. Leora had made it through. Recovery was slow and painful and brilliantly alive. Daytime walks down hospital corridors. Windows opened wider, color returning to her cheeks. The first time she stepped outside, sunlight hit her face and she cried without hiding it. Armin stood beside her, realizing that hope was not loud. It was steady. It was showing up again and again even when fear begged you to stay home. A year passed, marked by seasons and growth. Leora moved into a small apartment near Armin's home. The triplets learned her name before they learned how to pronounce it properly. They brought her drawings filled with suns and stick figures holding hands. Armin watched her sit on the living room floor during daytime, strength returning in careful increments, patience learned from pain. Love arrived without ceremony. It settled in like it had always known the address. The past did not disappear. Grief never does. But it softened, reshaped by new laughter and shared mornings. Armin struggled with guilt, with the fear of replacing what could never be replaced. Leora understood without explanation. She carried her own ghosts, her own what-ifs. Together, they learned that love did not erase loss. It made room for it. They married on a bright afternoon in a small park, sunlight filtering through trees, the triplets scattering petals with uncoordinated joy. There were no grand speeches, no promises shouted to the sky. Just hands held tight, vows spoken simply, witnessed by people who understood that survival itself was sacred. If this story has reached something tender inside you, if it has reminded you that life can still surprise you in daylight places, please take a moment near the end of this video to like, comment, and share. Your engagement helps stories like this find others who are still waiting for hope. And before the ending fades, here is a special request. Please comment the word light if you believe even the wrong door can lead to the right life. Armin sometimes thought back to that first day, to the moment fear pushed him into the wrong hospital room. He understood now that there were no wrong rooms, only moments disguised as accidents. In the bright clarity of daytime, surrounded by children who ran freely and a woman who had learned how to live twice, he knew that kindness was not a single act. It was a decision made again and again, to stay, to care, to love even when the ending was uncertain. And that, more than anything, was what saved them all.